Aloha. This video I wanted to, share some things that I had already been building on in the last few videos, but since then I've been expanding on with certain other issues that are pretty much the same, but definitely more dialed into the persona of what I was talking about, like the actual how it exists inside the individual, because I think that's really the most potent way or fastest way to shift something is to help people shift what's inside of them, because that shift will inherently help the macro change, because if the people shifting inside will eventually see the macro differently, and then that'll be a shockwave from there, and then the mixtures in between. So anyway, I had wrote a few things down and wanted to go over them because they're pretty much all the same examples of the same thing, but from a different perspective, and they all pretty much circle around the identity of RWS, because there's a persona, there's a character, there's a feel, there's a, like, you have different friends and different some kind of different people. It's an actual, bring it to life as a being of sort, and now see that being as a person. What's that person look like, sound like, how are they, their emotions, like all of this has a different feel. Like if you were to bring a like something to life, like a doll to life, and that doll was to be painted with the characters of the mainstream media, that is just an extension of the colonial media. So what was the colonial media? Let's rewind. Let's just, for a moment, take all these other these events that have happened after the New World was established. That New World feel where they were saying Christopher Columbus discovered the New World. For example purposes, in this moment, let's just rewind and say, okay, well, everybody can understand the mainstream media, but where did the mainstream media come from? And what was the colonial media back then? So you're talking about power. Mainstream media is designed to distract and cloud the masses from the powers, the so-called the people who are manipulating the resources around that. Slow down our power in many different ways, because our energy cells get filtered and censored and so on and so forth. If we had all the resources, access to them, without them being guarded by cowards in these colonial people who are aware of this. You have to be aware of this to be a coward. These people who are aware of the system the way it is, that's the cowardice I speak of. This shit where people are just dumb and just blindly defending the country, like people who are out on Easter Sunday wearing the jean shorts and the American flag shirt tied up, with the American flag, this, and they're doing their Easter holiday celebration, and they are being good Americans. So that's it right there. What is the good American? The personality. The good American is accepted. It's loved. It's cherished. The good American is a product of a good old traditional white family. White picket fence, blue collar. So this is to generalize the accepted slave mentality, for just to keep that space going, as far as like to conceptualize what we're really talking about here. What are we really talking about when we're saying, okay, the colonial establishment, the mainstream media, people are calling themselves truthers, people are calling themselves conscious, enlightened, awakened, You're talking about aliens. You're talking about dimensions with the Mandela effect. People are talking about the Earth not even being what it's supposed to be. Is it flat? Is it round? And then the simulation theory, and then what is the system putting in there? Like all these different, things that are put together, and then all of this still exists under the main blanket of, well, the lies that you're talking about, the deception that you're speaking of, the power that you are being separated from, like all these things trace back to very small groups of people who also are connected to very small groups of mindsets, very small groups of belief systems. One of those groups of belief systems has been the use of racism, white supremacy in power overall, period. The fact that you get pushback, that anybody gets pushback from even mentioning that, is suspect as fuck in the beginning. To just sit back and think of it right now, like, it is clear as day. A child, a second grader, a third grader, if they were spoken, if they were shared the information of what's going on, like actual school, like actual information, not the public education, indoctrination, conformity system that's out there, not that bullshit. If a second grader was told what was going on, they would understand how fucked up this system was. But that's exactly why there is an education system that is selling these medieval times sort of ideas of intellect that have nothing to do with educating you about empowering you, and everything to do with imploding your intellect, separating you from the organic empowerment that exists inside of you and connected to your ancestors. And it's all about conforming you, making you conform to the system that has enslaved your ancestors. This is the public education system. This is the political, capitalistic, democratic, progressive bullshit that everything that's out there. This is your mini mall. This is your mainstream media, your Hollywood, your social media, your Twitter, your techie industries, all of them out there in Mountain View, all of them out there in next to Google and Facebook and all that shit. All that is a big at NASA, SpaceX, all of those big power groups. What is this? JPL, like all these big, even the military industrial complex. Where did that shit come from? Before it was a military industrial complex, it was a colonial industrial complex. See, this is the shit that this is the stories that people are defending. It's built in the character. You can't have one without the other. You can't wear an American flag t-shirt without spitting and shitting all over the ancestors who were the original people of this land. You can't wear that shit. There's no fucking other way to put it. In some way, some elder somewhere will walk by that and see you, and they will be destroyed on the inside because of what that represents to them. And you could argue, yeah, it only means something to me. It represents this to me and such and such and such and such. Okay, but are there other things? Like, if there is any chance that represents something that's going to destroy somebody else, why the fuck would you even play around with it? Like, is it needed? Is it yours? No, it's not. So all these symbols are designed to linger for a while in the people so that the people defend this shit. So right now, people are defending the American flag. People are defending the American dream. People are defending Mount Rushmore. People, it's not this generalized term, or these, it's not the cabal and the Illuminati. No, fucking people are defending this shit. This is why I said the system of RWS is defended by the people of this establishment. And the defense is not like they got AKs and all this other stuff. I mean, they have that too on the underground. But the defense mechanisms are what you're looking at right now. This is the defense mechanism. This totally delightful sort of everything is fucking awesome. It's made fun of. So check this out. Look at the movie Thor Ragnarok, and this is the double back that they try to do. at the end of that show, this is the thing that people have difficulty with. It's like, why are movies like revealing truthful information? Why is all this stuff going on? Because it's all being it's a plant. It's planting that so that later on they can play both the victim and the aggressor. They can play the superhero and the villain. So right now, this is what's happening. Hollywood is both seen as like making people think a certain way, and like make them implode and be angry and hate themselves and so on and so forth. Obviously shit that's part of the establishment, but there's some kind of like still belief in there, like they're good in some kind of way, because they're telling you in like Thor Ragnarok, like the guy who represents Jeff Goldblum's character represents like the establishment. When Thor gets caught up on that planet, he gets sucked into that world, and Jeff Goldblum's character is just like, yeah, welcome to this planet. This is the best place ever. I'm in charge here, and all you have to do is just like bow to me, and then you'll have everything you need, and then watch the gladiator arenas. Yeah, this is lovely. And they live in a fucking dump, right? So you're like, yeah, oh man, this is deep. Like a simple ass person can be like, this is very deep. Like Marvel's deep. And who doesn't know what the fuck is going on? Like some new agers are like that, and so they don't pay attention to politics anymore. So that shit, those kind of little notes are for the new agers. Those notes are for the new agers to think that the aliens or the extraterrestrials that are supposedly in Hollywood and in the government, the good ones, they're there. So it keeps the new agers in check from not saying anything. All of this shit is designed to desensitize you. This is what it is, because the system knows, the establishment knows that the people themselves are the ones who have the power to change this whole shit, and until they realize that their biggest threat against them is themselves. So you have to desensitize them so they can't sense that what's happening to them is going on. So this is what it's all going on. Like, to be totally loving of this world. That's what Jeff Goldblum's character in that movie represented. Somebody who's like selling you a world. It's mind control. These people with these faces, look at her face. They're selling you this fucking world. This is on the trending page. So this was all the shit that's on the trending page. And you gotta think, this is another thing. Look at this thing on the trending page. Like, what the fuck? Where is this at? At the top. It's like the fifth one from the top. And if you count that split, it's like those are like the sponsored ones. And then there's this one. What the hell is that? Oh, you're gonna have to hold on. Alright. So there's so the second one, look at this shit. What the fuck is that? Dax, the real Dax shady shit. Like, that's the most obvious emasculating image that you could see. Look at that shit. What the fuck? He's just bent over, pants down, sagging. I haven't even watched the video. Pink on. You know what all this stuff represents? Like, why the fuck is that trending? Why is this trending? Look at this shit. What is this? Look at these simple-minded, childish, empty, substanceless, totally, this is the main thing, totally fucking happy. They love this shit. Mix in a little destruction, a little fear, to make you also make you also be happy that you can just desensitize and go back. This is why actually the horror genre is sold in the mainstream media, because that's another huge desensitization system out there. Just as a side note, there's your gladiator arena. Every sports arena is out there. You got your giants running around, throwing a ball around, fighting each other, killing each other, and then you have the people watching it. Same thing like in that movie. So, like I've said this before about the Jason Bourne movies. Just as a quick side note, the system creating what's it called? This idea that there are good guys in the system. So like there's in the Bourne movies, there's like good FBI agents and bad FBI agents, and then another good example is that Tom Cruise movie where he was bringing drugs and guns from so that whole movie is like, you're like, how the fuck, why would the government even allow this? Because they don't show any of the other information. Like, how the fuck are they even doing this? Well, you gotta ask yourself why. What benefit is it? How does it affect you as a person? How does it affect children? How does it affect adolescents? How does it affect adults? How does this stuff affect us? And then why is this stuff put out there? See, people are just being consumed with the trending that's getting put out there by the same people who are controlling the how and the why. They're being consumed by the actual cartoons, by the colors, by the toys that are being put out there. This is the mind control. It's not some crazy fucking like deeply like, oh, their system like raised like in that Batman Forever movie with Jim Carrey. It's not like they suction cup the fucking thing to your head and then the tube goes in. Like it's the actual it's the society itself. It's the way it's designed. So let me get back to this so I can close this out. So yeah, the delightfulness. Oh, that's another thing. Joe Rogan and Russell Brand. Another video I was watching was Joe Rogan and Adam Conover, the Adam Ruins Everything guy. When I still haven't watched the full ones of either Russell Brand or Adam Conover. I don't really plan on doing it either. But there was a chunk where Adam was talking about trying to defend the mainstream, politically correct trans sort of persona against Joe Rogan's, like, they shouldn't be competing in thing. And you can see right there, like, that's the system starting to eat itself, implode. And these conversation between these people, because that's them. That's their own mentality. That's their own system, like, fighting itself. That ain't our beliefs. Like we're not in that conversation as far as like cultures and we have our own ways of interpreting that communication. Don't got to be on Hollywood and TV and all that. No, you go into the ancient cultures, they all have those breakdowns of what's going on there. So this shit is new to these people, to the mainstream people, to the colonial people. They're talking about all this because they don't have any fucking foundation, any baseline. This is why all the mainstream media is so effective, because on the whole, there is no real solid information out there because the system was designed like that. Keep the people dumb, and then over years release only certain amount of smart information, and then the people who are releasing the smart information can remain in power, and then they can remain gods and kings over you. So this is the system of keeping you dumb. And then every now and again, there's some shit that's connected to some deeper stuff, like Russell Brand with his cheap consciousness conversations that are like basically clips of nothing that don't really go. I mean, I don't want to say they're nothing because they're a hell of a lot more than the nothing that comes from the nothing itself. But he's just another example of the nothing if there's no intent behind it. I mean, to go beyond that, there's like people who don't even know what kind of intentions are out there, but it's like, what is your... There is nothing there. People are just floating around. They're just floating around, sharing a bunch of shit. And that shit gets picked out of the system or picked out of the ethers by the system to, entertain to distract the people for the overall personality of the acceptance of this system to exist. That's the point. The totally comfortable, totally happy, the totally loving, and just like it becomes a personality. So think about this: like there are personality traits within certain cultures. There's like certain kinds of people. There's certain kind of like on a basic sense, like the elders. Like in the Western society, the elders are thrown into a box, and in the old school or in other societies, the elders are filled with wisdom, and they are pretty much around from the younger ages, from the children, the brand new babies, they stay around the elders so they can learn how, to respect their elders, and they also learn the wisdom. Also, the children and the elders are very similar in sort of personalities at that time frame, so it's a whole thing. That shit doesn't even exist in the mainstream like society, in a Western colonial society. So how does that affect, not to use that shitty word anymore, like humanity, but all of us, the masses as a whole? Like, how the fuck does that not existing affect us now? Like, it's horrible. So like there are so many other examples of that, and what I'm saying is that the existence of the mainstream persona is the anti-natural persona. So these people who are existing, they're trying to have both. You can't have both. You cannot have both. This is what I'm trying to tell people what's going on here. You can't have your colonial, pretty sort of everything is awesome life and fucking talk about the establishment itself. This is what Mark and Patricia was trying to do. How the fuck could you sit up there with that British flag in the background and that American jukebox and that all that shit? That is the personality of mind control. That whole set. And then they put on medical, like doctor coats, like lab coats, like they're fucking doctors to, this is the same way. See, when they put on those lab coats, it's the same thing that fake ass new agers do when they start telling you about what you should do with your life because they're a new ager and they change their lives. Just because you change from one pile of shit to a pile of stale, soggy shit, like less smelly shit, and then you still a pile of shit. To over explain what I'm saying. The point is, like, these people are selling an idea through their very nature, and the people, it's not natural to the majority of people, and it's trying to impose this system. Look at that conversation with between Joe Rogan and Adam Conover. You can see how Adam easily is trying to impose his LGBT politically correct belief systems onto Joe Rogan. I mean, it's easier. Then this is the fucked up thing. It's easier for people to understand and feel. This is another part of racism, white supremacy. See how fucked up it is, that it's easier. It's more acceptable for people to feel something and understand something when you use white men as examples. If you use examples of somebody else, people are real quick to just be like, oh yeah, but they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're thinking like this, oh it must be that. But if you use two white men as examples, holy shit, you got people believing it right off the, oh yeah, well that makes a lot of sense, so that I totally understand that. Yeah, because you've been mind controlled your whole fucking life. That's why. So that's what I'm saying. That whole belief system is the persona. It's the persona that is when they adopt that persona, that's what, in terms of going back to the persona the persona within cultures, personas of elders, the persona, I use this word to give examples, to bring life to it, to feel like something's missing, like the shaman of like just the medicine person, like the persona of that person, to take the stigma away from it, from these fucking mind controlled ass people. That shit has exist. Just imagine if that of a person, passing, like leaving, like your the wisdom in person, like not even being a part of the society anymore. That's fucking horrible. So that's just normal today. It's like, oh yeah, put my elders in the big old home, and then they just stand there and eat all the, then they just hang out, and they don't know. They can do that because they don't know anything. They're no ancestors. People don't care about the kids. People don't care about anybody. Nobody cares about shit. And they're just fucking happy as can be. And this is where you come in with the dogs and the cats and all the animals and all that other shit. These are all the space fillers. Those are the ones who are those are the ones who overemphasize the animal consciousness. Just go along with it and just hope everything will get better on its own. But really, the don't have any kind of critical thought at all. Just be in survival mode. What are dogs and cats in? Fucking survival mode. Feed me shelter me, keep me secure. Period. Maybe some entertainment, maybe some what is that? Companionship every now and again. That's the relationship that the people have with the system itself. It's a codependent system of enabling. And you don't see that you're being enslaved because the defenders of this universe, the defenders of your own enslavement establishment are like your good, they're like your friends. They love it. They're the ones that they're loving of this system is clouding the conversation of more depth. That's what the mainstream media actually represents. The defenders of the colonial slave establishment are overtaking like the television or the just think of it like it's a television. Think of it as every television station showing a speech of every president ever. Just imagine that. That's basically what you're watching now. That's what the television is. You have the illusion of differences, like everything is different and we're all one and all that other shit. You have that illusion. That's why that whole like the American way is just like a combination of everybody. That's why the United States was kept where it is as far as the last stronghold to focus all the attention on what the United States represents. It represents complete ignorance to the historical connections to the land and your ancestors. It represents complete mind control, a loving of this establishment, a worshiping of this establishment, so much so that it turns into the persona, the characters, the people. It becomes a culture. So the culture is racism, white supremacy. That's what the mainstream media is. People, the loving, the cherishing of this system is a manifestation of the pinnacle of racism, white supremacy. It's think of it as prison, like breaking somebody. Well, the free prison breaks you as well. This is the free prison that everybody is in right now. Everybody is in this prison of freedom. And it has the same effect on you as the prison of confinement. And this prison of freedom exists in the personality, that the same kind of personality that happens in the prison system. Study the prisoners. Look at how the prisoners in there they lump up. They're fighting. They're all that other stuff. The point is the people are being controlled by a thought process that is all-encompassing. It includes everything that is in and around everything that is in and around your basic needs and your like truly basic, not like basic, but like truly basic, like primal survival basic needs. So this always goes back to time, stealing your time through manipulating the consciousness, manipulating the experience through the experiencer. So just as you can understand that if you were to focus more on your mind and your spirit, if you were to focus all the energy that you had focusing on the physical that you did, focusing on your mind and your spirit, you would actually live longer. You would be healthier. You would be more fulfilled in many different ways. But what is promoted all the time on the television and in society? It's all about the body, the way you look. So it's what actually keeps you dying quicker. It keeps you focusing on what takes you out of here faster, at the expense, like keeping other people up and keeping your experience completely mediocre at best. And for other people, just kind of not even able to catch any kind of tread. This is what the side effects of racism, white supremacy is, that the majority of the people, 9/10 of the entire race of people in this whole experience spend most of their lives trying to get up to the baseline, the beginning stages, as far as success rate in that system, in that character, like I was saying before, the successful system, the system of racism, white supremacy, the colonial establishment as a whole. So that character that I was talking about existing in the people, that manifests into the defenders of this establishment. So like I was saying before, Mark and Patricia identified, they were the manifestation of the persona of what it is to be completely they are the perfect example, and they will be in the, you will see this in the future, that people will look back at the beginning of flat earth and they will see how lost people were and how fucking dense and substanceless people were. They will be the perfect examples of how empty people were when they realized the biggest one of the biggest deceptions of the entire world. How just powerless and yeah, just nothing. Just there's nothing there. They were so fucking lost that the biggest lie they were ever understanding, they just gave it back to the system and were hoping, just waiting, not even waiting, because that gives them too much credit, waiting for something to change. Because on the other hand, there's the idea existing that's equal to that of not wanting this system to change. That's what's being revealed in these discussions. The other side of these individuals, the large percentage, they're equal at 50-50. The other percentage is not wanting this system to change. How much of the system is the persona of Mark and Patricia? Like that, you know, and of anybody else who speaks on, you know, about truth and all this other stuff, and the not heliocentric universe, all this information that's out there, it's just like the mainstream media, how diverse it is, the information on the mainstream media. It's about as diverse as the television, which is not really, you know, a mixture at all. It's very basic. It's very simple. It's not really touching on the deeper parts of of what's really going on here. And what I've been saying is that's on purpose. That's exactly on purpose, because what that does is it maintains a controllable, a manipulatable. You can create a space of, they're just smart enough, but you know, overall they're just pretty much just dumb enough and just naive enough, ignorant enough, but just smart enough to think they know what's going on, just impoverished enough to not say anything, but you know, be scared of being completely, you know, just in that space of just in the happy medium of dumb and mediocre smart, like awakened to what? This is the new age of what? The enlightenment to what? So this is another part that I wanted to go into on a later video, but this is a good, I just might as well knock it out quick because it's written on here too. In reference to, so the character, the persona, the feel, the whole identity of that person. It's an actual people are like this. Like the whole identity of somebody growing up in like the suburban white America system, you know, growing up and being successful in the American dream, you know, having, you know, that whole thing, that whole reality, that is a realm. Like those beings who are living in that realm, in that space, that mind frequency, they create a realm. This is the realm that they are holding afloat with their mass consciousness. This is what I'm saying. The defenders of the colonial slave establishment have a mass consciousness, and their mass consciousness is the comfort. The creature comforts, the conformity, the loving, the cherishing, the worshiping, the protecting of their culture, because it's them. It's who they've become. So look at the Anthony Bourdain episode with one of his last episodes before he passed. He went to Louisiana, and he was researching, was it the Mardi Gras parade or something like that, and you can just see like the emptiness in a lot of like this make believe culture that is not really. It starts like, just say, today we wanted to start a culture. Hey, let's start a fucking culture, guys. Hey, let's do this. And then like 15 years later, it's still going on. So like people are really like, now you started with like 20 people. Now you have like 200. Well, now multiply that. This is what's happening today. This is the mainstream culture. And there's like millions of people all around the world that are like, fucking A, man. Yeah, I love this shit. And there's other versions. Other people are saying fucking A for, their version of the mind control. So people in India, in Bollywood, are celebrating their version of mind control. People in South America or in Brazil or, Mexico, it's all on the television. Asia, China, like everywhere you go, they're celebrating their version of the mind control in their language, in their culture, and that's what I'm saying. It's a parasite of culture. It's a cultural parasite. It's a cultural and a conscious parasite that exists inside the people, like in the minds and the consciousness of the people, and the people who are loving that system because they're gods of that system. The people who love this system, these individuals right here, these Nickelodeon fucking people, these Nickelodeon ass face ass people, these are the ones that are keeping that realm alive. And what I'm saying is that as soon as they start talking about that, realm will start to deteriorate. But right now, they're not really talking. They're not talking about it at all. They're keeping it alive by saying that it doesn't exist. That's how the magic works. They have to tell you, hey, what are you talking about, man? That's crazy. Get out of here. You're just a crazy conspiracy theorist, huh? What do you mean we aren't real? We're not really. My culture has been around for hundreds of years. Like, what the fuck? Are you listening? I'm talking about like tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ass shit. You talking about day before yesterday ass culture, motherfucker? That ain't even a fucking culture. It's nothing. So I'm using these words to emphasize like the frequency, the energy, the feel of what that is. It's disturbing. It's sick. It's like I said, it's a cultural parasite. It's a parasite of consciousness. I've done many videos in the past breaking this down, so I'm not going to go any further into that. If you want to know any more about that, like look up the cultural or the parasites and like all that stuff back then. There's a lot of content on this channel. Yeah, that goes into that already. So I'll start bringing it back though a little more. Let me finish this and so on to end this too. So yeah, the defenders are keeping the realm alive. And what I mean by that, to make it more real, is that the people who are loving this system, so you can kind of see where I was coming from when I was bringing about that information about Mark and Patricia, it's creating an entire belief system. Stealing of time. That fake ass loving of this system character as those people, they stole 3 fucking years. See it that way. See this as a personality, as something that's like real. Make it real for you. If you really want to feel where I'm coming from, make it real for you. Figure out how this is real, how it can be real for you. Try to see more ways that this exists in your reality. For a moment, to at least look at this, and to take one moment to and that's another part of it. Take one moment to shut the fuck up and really listen to what the people who have been muffled for years. This is the whole thing in the whole New Age community. Before we even get to say anything. So we were silenced. Before we can even answer as to why we have been silenced. To bring about the information of why we have been silenced. And still to this day are being silenced and censored. Before we can even say anything, these motherfuckers jump to the head of everything and say, we have all the answers, and here's your fucking New Age community. Jump on board. Impoverished, not knowing about awakening and enlightenment and the law of attraction. Just join on with us. Look, we have Oprah. We have Tony Robbins. They're kind of like your people, right? They're relatable. Eckhart Tolle, Deepak Chopra. He's brown. Different, huh? Yeah, he likes us. Brown people who like white people, they're their best friends. Until you start talking about something else, oh, they fucking can't stand, they hate you. Start talking about all the stuff that adds up to them being a part of the system and keeping this shit afloat, and you'll see what actually happens. So before I go into the rest of this, I'm just really wanted to say that this stuff is it's a stunting of the consciousness, the stunting of the growth of consciousness. The system of RWS in music. See how it's in music and how it's stunting consciousness through music. See how it's in the law, even how your focus in the system of RWS on materialism destroys like your connection to like even the law of attraction, and even how they try to manipulate all that stuff. The law of attraction being just as words used to explain your relationship to the non-physical universe, and this whole like being being connected to something that you can't really conceptualize through physical means. It exists by like the stuff that happens and you can't even explain. Like, how the fuck? There's no way that could have happened. Like there had to have been some kind of non-physical communication between these people for this to happen. Like, that shit is fucking real. It exists in many different ways. So like when people are so focused on materialism and all this racism, white supremacy ass, loving this Barbie ass, Brady Bunch ass system, it turns off parts of your connections to the realm itself. It turns off your connection to the laws of attraction and all that other shit that the system is now trying to commercialize through the New Age, New World Order program.
Respected law enforcement professional, recently or retired now from the FBI, former regional director of Los Angeles. Do you, sir, believe that these dreadful allegations of babies being sacrificed are true?
I absolutely believe it, without any doubt. Based on the information that's been given to me across the country by numerous survivors and by confidential sources and informants.
Then why don't you name these people and arrest them? Never a name, never an arrest. These women come out of a group and they insist that they know the people in the group, and yet they do not identify these large mysterious cults. Name them and arrest them and get them off the street.
Does he not make a valid point?
He makes a valid point. The problem with that is, number one, police officers don't believe it. I may believe it. You may believe it. Some people in your audience may believe it. They don't believe it. Number two, if you decide to investigate these people, you have to, number one, handle it from an undercover operation. If you put an undercover operation...
How can somebody do this to my son?
Vernex Harding sat her 10-year-old son down for a tough conversation about cultural understanding. She's telling her story exclusively to Pix 11. Harding says her child was traumatized after a hands-on lesson about slavery. It felt all too real.
She told all the African-American students to raise their hands and proceeded with this exercise.
The exercise was a mock slave auction. Harding's son told her he and two other African Americans in their 5th grade class were brought into the hallway.
She started to put imaginary chains along our neck our wrists and our shackles on our ankles. And as soon as she did that, Mommy, I knew it was wrong.
When they were brought back into the classroom, they were lined up. The teacher then asked other students to start bidding to buy them.
She reiterated and said, you look like a wealthy white man. How about 300?
You see, we have to do some very hard thinking about what really is going on. It's just like, if looking at TV and seeing all of the commercials that now have black men with white women in commercials. You say, well, why is this taking place? See, every black woman who's looking for a husband and looking for a black husband should say, wait a minute, for some reason the media is promoting black men should be with white women. Well, I'm looking for a husband. I'm saying this is what a black female could say. I'm looking for a husband, but why is the media constantly showing black men with white women? There must be a reason. And I say the reason is that perhaps the system has decided, even though there is a fundamental concern about white genetic annihilation, perhaps the system has thought about, well, during slavery, the black female was raped by the white slave master. So the children that came from that union had a black mother. The black mother would tell the child, you're black. But now we can have a different kind of mindset when the mixed race child has a white mother, and the first breast in the baby's mouth is a white breast. And so they are born into a system of racism, white supremacy. And so the white mother tells the child, you're not black. You're mixed race. Now, she's got a black husband, but she's saying to the black child, you're not black. So she's indicating that she doesn't approve of black, or there's something wrong with black. And so then that child grows up with that experience, and many times, or certainly sometimes, that child can be a useful tool to use against black people, because the child really doesn't have positive. It grows up to an adult person who really doesn't identify deeply with black. See, some black people have complained about President Obama, that it seems to be very difficult for him to say, he can talk about it's important that the gay, lesbian, and transgenders not be discriminated against, that the women not be discriminated against, that the Hispanics not be discriminated against. It's very difficult for President Obama to directly say and focus on what is specifically happening to black people. Now, is that a result of his mother being white? Do you see? And so I don't really want to talk about my mother, and so I don't want to really talk about racism, white supremacy. So I just raised that question.